China. That's one line of a debate that I'm willing to bet our next guest disagrees with, at least in part. We welcome back to America from Singapore the author of A Gift of My Children and one of the world's best-known international investors, Jim Rogers. Jim, great to see you.
I am very pleased to be here, David. And
by the way, you're still a citizen of the U.S., even though you spend most of your time in Singapore, right?
I am a citizen and a taxpayer and a voter in the U.S.
Let's start with Singapore, then, the place where you hang your hat most of the time. Isn't that sort of a perfect example of the nanny state where you can't spit on the street for fear of getting arrested?
Well, it's loosening up, with all due respect to Singapore. Singapore has been enormously successful
of course,
in the past 40 years. It's been astonishing, and a lot of that has been because of very strict discipline. Now, a lot of other nations should have had strict discipline, and they haven't. The Congo's had a very strict political system, but they've gone down the tubes in the last 40 years.
But you also have to have economic flexibility. Companies have to have a certain flexibility that a nanny state or certainly a communist state don't give it, right?
Wait a minute. Singapore, if you come in and say, this is what we need, Singapore says, okay, right, you've got it. If you want to build a new factory, blah, 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 you get it, you need it, and you can succeed in places like that. Now, as far as China, I heard you call them, they call themselves communist state, but there's no question about that. But they're the best capitalists, among the best capitalists in the world. California is more communist than China is right now.
In what ways? Be specific.
Well, in China, if you, all the businessmen I know, most of them say we'd rather do business in China than just about anywhere, because if you need something, unless it's absurd, you can get it. You can get it done.
But sometimes the way you get it is not through the rule of law, doing things regularly, but through bribes or doing it under the counter, right? I mean, and doesn't that cause problems?
That sounds like America, doesn't it?
No. We do have options. Look, I'm not naive, Jim. I'm not naive. I understand that there are times when you got to pass the buck, when you got to do things under the table, et cetera, here, and we have too many regulations here. But you do have the rule of law here, and you don't have that sort of arbitrary nature of, well, I'll favor you, but I won't favor you that you have over in China.
But you certainly do have some of that, David. We
do have some, too much.
You remember Fannie Mae?
Absolutely. I give you that 100%.
Unbelievable political boondoggle, where they were paying off congressmen every day, senators, and they all should be in jail. The people at Fannie Mae and the congressmen should be in jail. Come on, what are you talking about?
But the bribes in China apparently have gotten to the point where a lot of companies are moving back. We've had companies here on Scoreboard that had their operations in China, but said we had to pay so many bribes, and so many of our shipments came back ruined, that we finally decided to move back to the United States, even though we have higher labor costs.
Okay. I don't know why I'm the one defending China, but since you're going to take the other side, I'll take this side.
Go for it.
That's the story.
Go for it.
Okay. Yes, there are going to be lots of problems in China, I assure you. And there are lots of problems in China. But the country that I see on the rise is China. They're the largest creditor nation in the world. They have a huge balance of trade surplus, and it's getting better. We're the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, and it's getting worse.
Do you believe their stats in terms of their growth rate?
Well, I don't believe any government stats. I don't believe ours. I don't believe theirs. Germany. I don't believe anybody.
Because some people say, and particularly, again, talking to some of the businesses that have pulled back here, say they believe that there is a slowdown occurring. It's still growing at great guns compared to ours, but at a slower rate.
They're trying to have a slowdown. They've got a serious inflation problem. One of the big mistakes that China has made.
You don't believe in the Phillips curve. You can have high growth without inflation, can't you?
Please. I don't believe I don't believe economists. I don't believe politicians. I don't believe bureaucrats. But I will say that China is growing very dramatically. Now, they're trying to slow down. They've got an inflation problem, a serious inflation, and they've got a property bubble in urban coastal cities. And they're trying to do something about it.
But, Jim, here's the bottom line. Don't you eventually have to have a political system that is as free, or at least attempts to be as free as the economic system, for the whole country to sustain its growth?
David, it's opening up. When I first went to China 30 years ago, one party, one TV, one television, one radio, one newspaper. Now there are dozens, scores. Everybody's on the internet. People are protesting.
So is the Communist Party doomed there?
They're going to call themselves communist. Italy calls itself a Catholic country. Italy's not a Catholic country, but they say they are. The Communist Party may be around for 100 years, but it's not the Communist Party. No Communist Party's ever succeeded, and that's why they changed.
Well, Jim Rogers, I wish you hung your hat here in New York, because we want to see more of you. Please come back and see us again.
I want to discuss things with you many times. You need help.
All right, Jim, thank you. We all need help, and I'll take your advice anytime. Jim Rogers.